as we continue reading through the market participant letter, they really dive into some interesting reasons, and they kind of have a gotcha on the CMA with one particularly juicy statement. The CMA said they're worried about Google and Apple. Well, this seems like an answer to that problem, so why would you not want that? Let's get into it right now. Ultimately, we believe it is clear that the proposed transaction will overwhelmingly result in positive benefits to consumers. Microsoft has committed to democratize access to Activision Blizzard titles, including eventually Call of Duty through adding these to Microsoft's Game Pass subscription service. And I had the note on there, and also PlayStation Plus, which they've extended the offer to Sony for. This would allow access for Xbox consumers to a wider range of high-quality titles. Microsoft is seeking to widen access to these popular titles, which is in the interest of consumers. Well, it has been confirmed that Sony has a contract with Activision Blizzard that prohibits them from adding Call of Duty to Microsoft's Game Pass. You hear that? So Microsoft is saying, Nintendo, we want you to have it. Valve and Steam, we want you to have it. PlayStation, hey, we want you to have Call of Duty. What are they doing over there at Sony again? Oh, they're signing contracts with Activision Blizzard. That means Activision Blizzard cannot be on Game Pass. They're paying them so that they don't release the game on Game Pass. That's what's happening at Sony. That's why they're concerned. Absent this transaction, and also let's say hypothetically Call of Duty goes to PlayStation Plus and it's still a massive, huge success, you bet Microsoft's going to release those numbers, because PlayStation's we can't do day one releases on PlayStation Plus. That narrative is going to get blown up. That might be one reason why they don't accept the offer. By the way, if you didn't see the offer video, you can check it out up there. I probably linked to it earlier in the video also, where they talk about, hey, you can have it on PlayStation Plus. Wider choice for consumers at a lower cost. Absent this transaction, consumers would only be able to play new releases of Call of Duty, such as the recently launched Modern Warfare 2, by purchasing it outright for $59.99. However, following, consumers would have options for Game Pass. Removal of a large upfront capital cost on hardware is positive for consumers. For many families in the UK, the upfront cost of the latest generation of consoles is inaccessible, as they range from $449.99 for an Xbox Series X to $479.99 for a PlayStation 5. The removal of upfront capital costs, whether it be for a console or a game, is a welcome development that allows for greater consumer accessibility. This is particularly relevant in periods such as today, where the UK is in a cost of living crisis, where PlayStation just raised the price of their console, by the way. It does, and Xbox will be raising the price of their games. By contrast, the move towards greater adoption of subscription and cloud-based platforms should be welcomed, as it allows consumers the ability to stream video games without the friction of a large expenditure on hardware. They're explaining like, hey, like, why would you block the cloud gaming stuff? Because that's going to offer people more avenues to have access to content at a much lower cost. You take out the cost of the console. Sony's scared of that. Xbox is like, go for it. We don't care. No, there is no incentive for Microsoft to pursue input foreclosure strategies. Denying the ability for PlayStation consumers to have access to Call of Duty, given its history and prevalence, would risk disenfranchising, disrupting, and diminishing its consumers. This is something Microsoft has shown it values, as seen through its most comparable transaction, the acquisition of Mojang, where Microsoft continued to keep Minecraft available to all console platforms. There is a clear lack of incentive for Microsoft to make Call of Duty exclusive to Xbox, even if Microsoft were to do so. The evidence submitted in the public domain suggests that PlayStation would still have a greater number of users than Xbox, even in the unlikely scenario the majority of Call of Duty players switch from PlayStation to Xbox. Therefore, the effect of Microsoft pursuing an input foreclosure strategy with respect to Call of Duty is one that would not result in Sony's ability to compete being substantially limited. Basically, what they're saying is PlayStation would still be on top. There's no truth to the narrative that they would be limited in their ability to compete. If we acquire a game that comes with a big community across a number of platforms, the last thing we want to do is take something away. If anything, we feel that it's our job to be caretakers, to be shepherds, to continue to build and nurture that community, not to cut it up into pieces and try and take some of it away. Now, a lot of people have taken issue with this because that's in reference to the Bethesda point, right? They're talking about Call of Duty here, but then people are like, well, you're taking Elder Scrolls and Fallout away. They're not taking away Fallout 76, which has a community of online players all over the place on all platforms. So there's no reason for them to take that away. There's no reason for them to take away Elder Scrolls Online either. Same thing. Big, huge, massive community. And honestly, I wish that game had crossplay. I don't know. I assume it doesn't have crossplay because at the time PlayStation was charging a crossplay tax. So that never happened, right? But people take issue because they've talked about Elder Scrolls and Fallout going forward. Look, that one's a little bit in the weeds. I feel like they're not going to remove all the existing content, but going forward from the purchase, yes, those will be exclusive. Just like I'm going to have to play every Final Fantasy, it would seem, on my PlayStation 5, at least the core entries, like the Final Fantasy VII Remake, still only on PlayStation. Final Fantasy 16 is only going to be on PlayStation, so that's where I'm going to play it, right? Well, guess what? Their answer to that is Elder Scrolls. And they own it. They have the option to own it. If Sony had the option to purchase Square Enix, they would probably purchase Square Enix if they won that bidding war. I would imagine that would work. Still no Final Fantasy 14 on Xbox. There's very clearly a relationship between those two companies. And to fault Xbox for doing the same thing with Elder Scrolls, I don't get it. As evidenced by Activision Blizzard's 2022 10Q following the release of Call of Duty Vanguard's average monthly active users, it decreased by 47 million users, or 12%. So what they're saying here is, sentiment can quickly change based on the perceived quality of the content on offer, and that a new market leader can emerge, like Fortnite, along with established titles fading, as has been the case with the once market-leading Halo franchise. Everybody talks about how much Halo sucks now. Okay. If that can happen to Halo, could that happen to Call of Duty? That's the argument being made by this person here. These examples demonstrate that franchises do not have entrenched market power in the video games market, and how Call of Duty, along with Activision Blizzard's titles, more generally depend on consumer sentiment for their popularity, with no guarantees that this will continue. Nothing can be true forever. That's why you don't sign deals that are forever. That's what everyone's like, why won't they just sign a Call of Duty Forever agreement? Because that would be stupid. You would never sign that because you don't know what's going to happen with the popularity of the franchise or what will happen with the game in the future. One final area worth highlighting is Microsoft's development of a mobile gaming app store that is enshrined by its novel Open App Store principles. The CMA's recent study into mobile ecosystems suggested a duopoly that Apple and Google hold, describing the various harms to consumers and as a result of weak competition in the sector, which acts as a brake on innovation. They're about to nail the CMA with this one, by the way. I found this one very interesting. Microsoft is focusing on building out its mobile gaming capability through this transaction and using it as a catalyst for innovation related to the development of its mobile game store. Such innovation is exactly what the CMA has identified as lacking in the mobile ecosystem. The CMA said, we need competitors for Apple and Google. Microsoft said, okay, we're going to buy Activision and we're going to build that platform to compete with Apple and Google. And the CMA is like, whoa, okay, we didn't mean you. Gotcha, CMA. Gotcha. It is likely that this transaction could bring vital competition to Apple and Google in this market, help ensure consumers are prioritized and protected through enhanced governing principles, and stimulate further innovation in the market to bring wider choice for consumers. This is inherently positive for consumers and for the industry. I don't know what to say about this. This is a beautiful statement. The CMA said Apple and Google have too much power. Here's Microsoft saying we want to make a competitive platform that will compete with them. And the CMA is trying to stop it potentially. They got them, in my opinion, they got them really, really good with that one. Microsoft has offered up several public commitments with respect to Call of Duty to alleviate concerns about import foreclosure. We already know they're going to make it available on PlayStation. They have a 10-year deal on the table. They've offered it to Nintendo. They've offered it to Steam. Steam said we don't even need an agreement. They'll honor all existing agreements. They've honored all existing agreements when they purchased Bethesda. Like there's so many statements that they've made. And the final page, we're going to go right to concluding remarks from there. Concluding remarks. In evaluating the evidence presented during your Phase 2 investigation, the ultimate questions to answer are whether this transaction will lead to higher prices, less choice, or worse quality for consumers. We believe it is clear that the answer to these questions is no. The prices aren't going to go up. Activision games were always $70. There's not going to be less choice. There's actually going to be more choice than ever before. And they have no reason to degrade quality. This is a transaction grounded in its focus on community cooperation and connection, and it is inherently positive for consumers. It is clear that it will bring greater choice at a lower cost without lowering quality for consumers, while also preserving competition and innovation in the digital gaming market. Absolutely true. In addition, this transaction is an opportunity for the CMA to lead the way in shaping digital markets policy and assisting with the transition towards increasing use of subscription and cloud gaming platforms in the UK. By setting these standards for policy in this evolving industry, the CMA can ensure such evolution is done with consumer priority in mind and for the betterment of the wider industry. We trust that you will continue your dialogue with both sets of parties, Sony, other competitors in the video game industry, and third parties with expertise in this sector. Please let us know if you have any questions related to the above views. We would be very happy to discuss these further. Thank you for taking our submission into consideration. Very, very positive. It is clear that it will bring greater choice at a lower cost without lowering quality for consumers, while also preserving competition and innovation in the digital gaming market. There is nothing about this deal that indicates bad things are going to happen to the market. And that is the end of it. And that's the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching. It ended up being longer than I thought, so I broke it into 2 parts. But if you would like to subscribe and hit that bell to know when my content goes live, do so, please. Thank you very much. Thank you so much to the members for supporting. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much. If you want to become a member, click that join button right down there. As always, both parts 1 and 2 are available to members with no ads the second that they were recorded. So thank you so much for supporting. I'm going to get out of here, and I'll see you for the next one. Bye for now, everybody.